You know, as a licensed professional counselor, I can say, and a parent now, there's one question that I get a lot, regardless of the behavior, regardless of what's going on, parent to parent, I get one question. What would you do? Hi, I'm Kimberly and welcome back to my channel, It's Only Homeschooling. I'm a licensed professional counselor and a former middle school guidance counselor turned homeschool mom of one. Here at It's Only Homeschooling, you'll find all kinds of things, resources for helping you homeschool your child with learning differences. First of all, if you like the content that you see on my channel, please consider clicking the like button below and consider subscribing. This will let YouTube's algorithm know that you would like to see more content like this. Yet degrees and licenses aside, when I am at home, I am still just a mom first and a counselor second, always. Today I'm going to share with you 5 things that I don't do in my homeschool. In my heart of hearts and in my moments of moments and within the depths of my soul, I am a mom first, period. I am human. I have bad days. I have moments where I yell. I have moments where I am not my best self. And I have to stop and I have to regroup and I have to rethink. And I have to remember that bigger than anything else, the most important thing that I have with my child is relationship. Relationship with God, relationship with family, relationship with self. Today, having said that, thank heavens for grace. Number 1, condemnation is not conviction. I will convict my child when it comes to certain behaviors that need to be addressed. That's part of parenting, that's part of guiding, but I do not condemn my child, and there is a huge difference. Conviction is biblically based. It comes from Christ. It comes from God's Word. Conviction holds us accountable. Conviction tells us there is something that we need to change that is very specific. Perhaps there is a problematic behavior that I need to work on with my child, or perhaps there's some area that we need to grow in, or that he needs to grow in, or that even I need to grow in, because conviction can be applied across all ages, across the entire lifespan. Conviction is a lifelong process. We are always learning, we are always growing. The conviction is applied through love, not through harm, and certainly not meant to hurt. It is nurturing and to help us grow. In applying conviction to my child, I also remind him that I apply conviction to myself and that God applies conviction to me and applies conviction to all of us. Especially with a child like mine who struggles with perfectionism, it's very important that I stress the difference between these two. I have even focused lessons on it with my child so that he can understand the difference of when I am giving gentle correction and not shaming. Condemnation, on the other hand, comes from the enemy. It comes with hurt. It comes with the intent to control. And it comes with the intent to bring about shame and guilt. And it's from a very deep, dark place that leads to despair and leads to sorrow. And what do we know about the enemy? That he only comes to steal, kill, and destroy. So when you are correcting your child, be sure that you focus on the behavior, which is what I try to do, and not focus on the child. Conviction focuses on the behavior that you want to change, and we all have behaviors that we need to change. Condemnation focuses on the person. Conviction leads to a new identity in Christ. Condemnation looks to old identity rooted in sin. Conviction looks to Jesus. Condemnation looks to self, that you can only try to make yourself perfect if you just try harder. There's no such thing. There was only one perfect being who ever walked on this earth, and that was Christ. We want to strive to do well like Christ did, but none of us will ever be Christ. Thank heavens he bore that burden for us. Conviction is a blessing. Condemnation is a burden. Conviction leads to hope and the promise of always doing better and that we weren't meant for this life anyway. Condemnation leads to hopelessness and what we call in the field learned helplessness. Learned helplessness pretty much means no matter how hard I try and no matter what I do, it's never going to get better. These kinds of things can lead to anxiety and despair and depression, and that's not what we want to feed our spirit. That's not what we want to feed our children. God's word convicts. It doesn't condemn. Number 2, I will let him struggle. I will not let him suffer. There is a difference. Struggle builds character. In this life, we are meant to have trials. We count them all joy, even in the times when we don't want to count them all joy, because we know that Christ has overcome the world. John 16:33, we have nothing to fear from this world because Christ has overcome the world. We put our trust and our belief in faith, and faith in Christ, in our Redeemer. If you know anything about my channel, you know my child struggles with learning differences. It's one of the reasons that I started my website, this YouTube channel, one of the reasons I write blog posts, one of the reasons that I host podcasts, and that I create digital content like this. My child has dyspraxia, or also known as developmental coordination disorder, dysgraphia, and sensory processing disorder. Inherent to those diagnoses, there are difficulties, especially anything to do with motor control or balance or coordination. So things that may seem simple for other children with development within normal limits, which is, for lack of a better way of putting that, are a little bit more challenging for my son. He has to learn things just a little bit differently. So that means it's going to take him a little bit longer, and he may have to approach normal developmental skills and have them broken down into different steps to learn them, things that other kids might pick up naturally. He doesn't pick up naturally. You know what? That's okay. There's a struggle in that through his struggle and through overcoming one hurdle and overcoming the next, the victory is his. He has earned something that no one has given him, because no one gave it to him but him. It was the struggle that built his strength. It builds his character. It builds two of my favorite traits about my son: perseverance and endurance. Such powerful gifts and such powerful blessings that can't be given to you. There's something that you have to earn through going through those trials. Some of my greatest lessons and takeaways that I have kept from therapy is that help means together. I know when you're trying to get out the door or when you want to get something done, we're all aware of the time crunch, right? There's only so many hours of the day, and if you're anything like me, we always seem to be running late. A lot of this is my fault. I'm not putting this on my child. I struggle with organization and time management myself. I'm working on it. But there are times when I'm like, oh my gosh, especially when he was younger, if I just did up that latch for him, or if I just tied those shoes real quickly, we could get out the door so much faster. Well, sure we could, but then I'm going to have a 16-year-old who can't tie his shoes. And it starts with shoe tying, and then it leads to, well, okay, eventually I'm going to have to teach him harder skills, like driving a car. I think I'm going to let my husband do that one. Yeah, I'm going to let my husband do that one. The point is, help means together. I want to rescue. I can't. I have to let him do it himself. It's wrong for me to steal his victory. Number 3, I don't let him win. Okay, sometimes in the earlier years, I would let him win. But I also don't want to give him false confidence that's not there, so that when he gets out there, he meets a real challenge of someone who's his peer, and on his peer level, he's not completely shocked and completely blindsided by the loss. I think he's probably caught on to the fact that I let him win a lot when he was younger. And to be honest, going back to number 1 for conviction, it was my husband that had to convict me in this. He saw me playing games with our son one day. And he was kind of watching us. He was like, I know you can play better than that. I think it was checkers we were playing. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I don't want to break his spirit. He's like, you're not going to break his spirit, but you're certainly not going to teach him how to persevere If you let him win every time, you're going to give him a false sense of confidence. I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty good. I need to pay attention to that. So, unlike my husband, who reminds me frequently that his father, when he taught him to play, so sorry, Papa, calling you out, but you raised a wonderful man, so by no means is this a complaint. He's like, my dad never let me win anything. And I'm like, well, okay, I guess that builds a different strength of character. And he raised a pretty good man that I'm really thankful to call husband and to have my son call dad. So I don't let him win. Now, for my son, who's a perfectionist and who absolutely hates to lose, I mean, he hates it. We have to sit down and have many conviction versus condemnation conversations about being a good sport and playing fairly, and how losing is not something you need to personally identify with. It doesn't mean there is something inherently wrong with you. It just means there are different skill levels. And even if you have the better skill level, there are going to be some days when you are not playing your best game. That happens to professional athletes who do this for a living, much less people who play chess or checkers or the latest game in our life, which is lots of Mario Monopoly. So yes, I beat him legitimately. And guess what? He's 10 and he's gotten to the point where he can legitimately whoop my honey in some checkers. And the look on his face, because I can tell that he knows the difference now, is priceless. I'm not stealing his victory because he earned it. Now, that doesn't mean I'm a bully. There are plenty of things that I let him have an opportunity to pick, and those are small wins as well. I let him pick a show that we're going to watch together as a family. He gets to pick movies. We take turns as well because he's an only child, and there's a lot of things he doesn't have to share because he doesn't have siblings, but I want him to understand the importance of considering others' needs and others' wants and to have that empathy. He might pick dinner. I let him pick on smaller things so that he can learn how to share in that, and that not everything is all about him just because he's an only. Believe me, to us, he is our world, and we do think he's pretty special. Unfortunately, we've had to make it known to him that the rest of the world is not going to think that. Not in cruelty by any means, but in honesty, in open honesty. So yeah, I give him a few small wins. Number 4, I do not ignore unacceptable behavior. Now, when he was much, much younger and in the tantrum phase, and I will say honestly, he would tantrum differently. I'll put it that way. He wasn't one of those, I'm going to pitch a fit on the floor. That wasn't his kind of thing. His was just very different. His was more during nap time. I would hear him down the hall sounding like it was last call karaoke. That was kind of behavior that I could ignore. He wasn't hurting himself, he wasn't hurting anyone else, and he wasn't breaking any property in doing so. If I started to hear things crashing or banging around, no, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to address the situation. Yet, as he got older and he started to engage in certain behaviors that were what I consider really unacceptable, and what I consider unacceptable behavior in my house is definitely one of the top 3 I just listed: hurting yourself, hurting someone else, or destroying property. No, I'm going to address that. But again, I'm going to address the behavior, not the child. He's allowed to have his feelings, absolutely. What you do with those feelings, completely different story. I talk more about this in the previous video I had about this, where I address the 5 things that I am sure to do, or I endeavor to do in my homeschool. I'll put a card up here so you can look for that video as well as a link in the description box below. But yes, unacceptable behavior I consider under those 3 categories, where it is harm to self, harm to others, or destroying property. Being disrespectful to me as your mom, yep, that's harmful to other people. Being disrespectful to yourself, where you are condemning yourself rather than when you could be convicting yourself and focusing on the behavior you need to change instead of focusing on the condemnation of, oh, I'm a really bad person. I address that as well. That's unacceptable. Or if you're going to break something just because you're mad, No, sir. We are going to address that as well. How do I address the unacceptable behavior? I'll make a longer video on that. If you're interested, just let me know in the comment section below. But first and foremost, before I address it, I try to make sure I employ what we use in our house, the power of the pause. A pause for him and a pause for me. I have found when emotions are high and you are all up in some big feelings, the outcome that you are going to want to have by addressing it, not going to be what you want. Take a minute, take a time out for yourself, give your child a time out as well. Somewhere to go, take some deep breaths so that you can reset your brain and get your thinking brain kind of turned on again, because any of us, when we're within those moments of those big feelings, we are not going to act in ways that are going to have positive outcomes. And that is applicable across the board. I don't care how much training you have. I don't care how many years you have been a parent. You need a timeout before you act. Taking this time out allows you to empower yourself to really think, and allows you the opportunity to truly respond to the behavior, to choose, okay, this is what's going on. This is what I would like to see happen instead. Now, these are the options that I have to do something about it. Which one do I want to choose? Okay, I'll try this one. Okay, that one didn't work. Pause again. Then I'm going to try this one instead. That one worked. Okay, or sometimes you might have to go through options A through Z with backup options as well. That's okay. Pause as many times as you need to. Number 5, I do not entertain my child. I don't. I am a working homeschool mom, and I haven't entertained him since he was little. Now, that doesn't mean I don't play with him. Of course I play with him. I enjoy my time with him. Absolutely. And my goodness, the years are, so short, even if the days are long, and I've had my fair share of long days. I do things a little differently, and I had to learn this the hard way. Now, my son has a beautiful imagination, and he creates the most fascinating and wonderful games, and has since he was little. And I have found that I am most frustrated when I attempt to play with him in those imaginative games or play, because I don't really understand what's expected of me, what the rules are, or the outcomes, or the time limit, or where this is going. I just feel a little bit lost looking for some direction. I know that a lot of this just happens because as we get older, we're adults, we tend to lose that bit of wistfulness and wonder and imaginative play that kind of goes away because we're burdened by the responsibilities of adulthood. It just sort of happens. What I have done is, starting when he was about, I want to say 5 or 6, I would tell him, okay, Mommy is going to play with you, absolutely. I'm going to set aside a certain time that we play, and I do set a timer for that play. And I'm sure to fill up his cup and spend that time with him. In fact, even though we homeschool, and he's in 5th grade now, and we do have lots more responsibilities to do, and we are all over the place with different activities. We do a lot of road schooling or car schooling, where in between activities, from his days at the brick and mortar school to going to swim class or to zoo school or to PE or music lessons, we're on the road a lot. So during the times that I have with him, I try to make sure that when he is home, before we do lessons, I fill up his cup first. Okay, actually, before I even do that, I'll be honest, I get up earlier in the morning and I fill up my cup first. It's important. I don't work out every day. I try to get in a good workout 3 to 4 days a week. But I get up for sure and I go have time with the Lord. That sets the tone for my day. I read my Bible, I do my Bible study, I pray. I have my coffee and I enjoy some quiet time. Then, when it's time to wake him up, I fill up his cup first. I give him 20 minutes where we spend time together doing whatever he wants to do. If he wants to play Legos, if he wants to play with magnets, if he wants to play some of the board games that he has created, that I've encouraged him to create, because they have rules that I understand and that make sense. I spend that 20 minutes with him and fill up his cup after I have filled up my own cup, because you can't pour from an empty cup. And it makes a huge sense of difference in our day, a whole world of difference. I also don't want him to think that he has to be busy all the time. Learning how to entertain yourself also lets you learn to appreciate the importance of rest. Now, more than ever, our kids are busy in so many different things, from activities to online games. Well, our son doesn't play online games, but he does play video games. And he does, love YouTube, and he loves movies, even though we're very careful with how we monitor that. And I'll put a link to, in the description box below, to some blog posts that I've talked about how to keep your kids safe when you use YouTube schooling like we do. But it is important for him to learn the importance of rest. You don't need to be busy all the time. Your body needs to reboot. It needs to relax. You need to give yourself that time of rest so that you can give fully when it is time to do other things. Rest is necessary. In all of these different things, I have found that what I'm really actually teaching my child is setting healthy boundaries. Setting healthy boundaries with himself so that, hey, I don't have to push myself. It's okay for me to say no. It's okay for me to take rest. And setting healthy boundaries with other people so that other people can actually set healthy boundaries with him. It is not someone else's responsibility to entertain you. It is not someone else's responsibility to rescue you. You are not going to win all the time, and that's okay when you don't. You shouldn't expect yourself to. Unacceptable behavior should not be ignored. It should be addressed, and condemnation is not conviction. God gives us that gentle boundary with telling us, okay, these are the rules that I have and outlined for how I want you to behave and how I want you to embody the Spirit of Christ and how you treat others and in how you treat yourself. It's a healthy, beautiful boundary that you learn to set within yourself and with others, and that you learn to accept from others. It also helps foster empathy. It lets him know that his needs are important, absolutely, but they are not more important than anyone else's. You also have to take other people's needs and wants and desires in consideration. That's a part of building and creating and fostering and nurturing healthy relationships. I hope you have found this video helpful. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to my channel and clicking the like button below. This will let YouTube know that you like this content and you would like to see more like it. If you'd like to know what else is coming up on my channel, I'll put a few cards up here as well. I've got some wonderful interviews coming up from our Salt and Light Serve Spotlight podcast series, where I interview all types of individuals and small businesses and organizations that are changing their communities one act of service at a time. I also interview and talk with a lot of other wonderful homeschool moms and authors in our Shelf Indulgence Book Chats podcast series. I'm also going to be making some more videos on how to help you nurture your child in your homeschool. I would love to hear about the 5 things that you do in your homeschool, and maybe the 5 things that you don't. Please let me know and introduce yourself in the comment section below and let me know. In the meantime, when the days get tough, and they do, remember, education is a journey, not a destination. Relax. It's only homeschooling. Bye for now.